to that. Let's go to over here bothering me. It's fine. All right, tonight's Get in Zone class dedicated to Nishmat, all those who passed away during the COVID pandemic by Anonymous, and by Arielle Miriam bat Orly. May this year bring us oneness and shalom within ourselves, and finding shidduchim, and in loving and caring for all. Okay, so we also would like to have tonight's class be in the merit and the zechut of one of the girls who comes to our Monday night class. Her mother was in a serious car accident tonight, and that's probably why she's not here. Can the group say Tehillim for Masha Aliza bat Fredel? May the merit of today's conversation talks go in her merit for a speedy recovery. Okay, Rosh HaShanah is 6 days away. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling the pressure. It's on. There are 6 shopping days left in the month of Elul, and I have about an hour to try to give you as much information as possible to make the 48 hours of Rosh Hashanah a meaningful one. And I will do my best during this time, because this is such a small and intimate group. At any point, any time, if you feel like you have a question for me, you want to ask me something, please feel free to interrupt. This is not a class, this is not a lecture. You can talk to me, that's what I'm here for. Okay, so let's begin at the beginning. Okay, when we are celebrating Rosh Hashanah, what are we celebrating? We're celebrating the birth of the world. Hayom Harat Ha'olam. It's the day that God brought reality into fruition. So let's talk a little bit about science for a minute. Okay, there's the current theory regarding the origin of the universe, right? It's commonly referred to as the Big Bang Theory. Okay, so what's the theory? Just so we understand the theory very clearly. The theory posits that when the Big Bang occurred, there was no time, there was no matter, there was no energy. There was no time, there was no matter, there was no energy. And then if there's no time, there's no energy, then there's nothing. So how does nothing explode and become something? Well, is that crazy thought? Like, that's what we believe. Like, this is a theory. This is the working theory of the origins of the universe. That there was nothing. Imagine nothing. You can't even imagine nothing. When you think of nothing, you're still thinking of something black, and it's nothing is nothing. And there's no time, there's no man, there's nothing at all, and then somehow nothingness gives birth into somethingness. Okay? Now, you have this infinitesimally small mathematical point that is made up of absolutely no matter, no occupied space, no preceded time, and somehow it exploded into an entire universe. How is this possible? This, we believe, happened on this unique day, Yom Rosh HaShanah. Now, that's not 100% accurate, because Rosh Hashanah is really the beginning of the birth of Adam. When we say Hayom Harat Ha'olam, it's the day that the universe came to reach its completion. And really, if you really wanted to tap into the day with the birth of the universe, you know when that would be? Anyone know? Tonight is the 25th of Elul. That's right, you heard it here first, folks. Tonight is the night where everything began. Tonight is the night where the Big Bang began. It's the big party. We've been partying since, and it's amazing. We're here. We're telling the story about creation and life itself. Now, what's so interesting is that we spend this week in reflection of the beginning of all history. And we have to ask ourselves, what is my unique potential how is my unique potential going to express itself in this cosmic reality? Because that's what Rosh Hashanah is about. It's not just, it's another year on the calendar that goes by. It's not just another mark in time. It's about my relationship to time. Because remember that Rosh Hashanah isn't just the day that the universe was created. It was the day that Adam was created. So 5,781, which is becoming 82 in a week, is the day that Adam came on the scene. That's the day Adam is born, or Adam has nevuah, however you understand Adam. Okay, Adam HaRishon, 5,781 years ago, he comes on the scene. And the story that we tell on Rosh Hashanah is the story of this man's potential expressing itself through you and I. Now, what's unique about his story? His story is just like all of our stories. We're here, we're really excited, we're curious, and we try to do the right things, and sometimes we're put in circumstances that present themselves before us, and we make bad choices. And his choices had massive ramifications. The ramifications were that the world as we know it has forever changed. We live in a reality where things aren't as clear as they should be, where if the world was truly an expression of God's will, you would know that his will is there. But the fact that we live in a reality where God is concealed, where we don't see that he's here, where we don't know that there is a being that is meaningful and purposeful and intimately involved in our lives, that lack of connection is where all doubt, uncertainty, and sin comes from. That is reality. Adam creates this reality. Now you and I have to deal with that reality. Okay, we're kind of cleaning up the mess, so to speak. Now, how do we clean up that mess? So we clean up that mess through a couple of things. One is through thinking. That's what separates us from every other creature on planet Earth, is that you and I have the power of thinking beyond the self, that I can think outside of the self. And I know you're thinking. Your thinking is that, well, Rabbi, when we think sometimes out of ourselves, we still make all kinds of mistakes. And I don't want to make mistakes anymore. The mistakes of my past, the mistakes of today, the mistakes of tomorrow, they define me. And I'm stuck in a loop maybe. How many of you realize that we've been in COVID for almost 18 months already? It's been 18 months. And it feels like it's going to be here for another 6 or 7 months, or maybe another year or two before we get beyond this kind of stuff. That's the reality. Now, this is the mistake that most people make. Most people say, well, I want to move beyond COVID. Let's get in front of it. Let's get ahead of it. And I think that's a mistake. I think you just got to accept that that's never going away. Like, this is the new reality. This is the new normal. And now the question is, how are you adjusting to this new reality? How are you going to pivot in the world that we're living in currently and just deal with the new Metziut that we're living in right now? Rosh HaShanah is asking you to ask that question. How do we take a world that which we thought we knew, right? Everything up until March 2020 was normal, right? And then everything changed all of a sudden. We have mandates and masks and vaccines and conversations about politics, what camp you're in. Are you a vaxxer? Are you an anti-vaxxer? We had a whole entire year of tremendous tragedies as Jewish people. We had people who were crushed, who died, who were in Israel, in Meron. I mean, it was a hard year. A lot of really bad things happened. And it's hard to process that. Now, there's the world around us and watching the world unfold as it's unfolding. And then there's my own reality, right? The reality that I live in, the world that I create for myself using my own choices. Now, there's one other point I want you to think of. When we talk about the creation of the world, I want you to realize that there is no inertia. There is no physical anything. That everything around us is an expression of God's will, which means that everything around you is part of cosmic energy. God's spiritual reality defines our physical reality. And therefore, what's happening in Rosh HaShanah is a measurement in time. Okay, we're measuring time over here. What's happening this time of the year? There's 3 major cycles that we go through throughout life. There's the renewal of the week, there's the renewal of the month, and there's the renewal of the year. Okay, these are 3 cycles that we're constantly going through all the time. There's only 7 days in a week. We can't add more. As a matter of fact, historically, we have not found any civilizations, barring one civilization in China, try doing a 10-day week. Okay, which makes sense, kind of. It's like a whole unit, right? But it didn't work out at the end. It lasted for a couple of years, and the whole thing, they messed up their calendars, the monetary system fell apart, it just didn't work. But historically, everywhere you go, you'll find a 7-day work week, 7-day week, right? Everywhere you go, you have about 30, 31 day, 28 day, 29 day, depending on the month that you're in, and you have a 365-day year. This is just the way it is. And we believe as Jews, not in a linear view of time, but in a cyclical view of time, where we're constantly reconnecting to these moments in time. We're re-experiencing a power in time. So when we celebrate Passover, we're not just remembering Passover, we are living through the cosmic energy that was there 3,300 years ago. Okay, and that means on Rosh Hashanah, we are tapping into the cosmic energy of the beginning of time. That everything that comes together on this day of creation, man at its pinnacle, okay, man at the zenith of creation, all of that energy on Rosh Hashanah is present. And what did God leave for us on this day? What was present? What was pronounced on that day? He creates man and woman, and he gives them a directive. Go out, be fruitful, conquer the world. Okay, do whatever you can to go ahead and make the world a better place. But there's certain things you can and can't do. There's something called the tree of life, something called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Don't do evil. Don't be involved in evil. Maybe just choose life. They make their choices. They make, again, the bad choices. And we're confronted at the end of the year as Jews. We ask ourselves, well, if we have a new set of potential that's being laid out for us, a new set of energy, cosmic forces that you and I could tap into, then, well, how am I going to take advantage of all that power? You see, on Rosh HaShanah, if you're not going to ask yourselves, well, what am I going to do different? When God's renewing his powers, he's renewing his cosmic reality, and he's allocating his resources, why should I give you more resources if nothing's changing for you? In Judaism, being stagnant, being apathetic, not movement, is tantamount to death. When you're in a situation where you're only taking, you're only receiving, you're considered flatlined, right? We know that the Yam HaMelech is called the Dead Sea. Why? Because it only collects water. It's interesting. It's the only body of water on planet Earth that does not share its water with anything else. It's in the bottom of the planet. It only collects, it only takes. And when you're only in a state of taking and you're not in the place of giving, that, my friends, is tantamount to death. So my question is, do you want to live? Do you really want to be part of do you really want to be written in the book of life? Do you want this year to be different? Because there's a huge guy in the sky handing out power, potential, ability. And all he's doing is waiting for those people to ask, who wants to be more involved this coming year? Who wants to be in a position to be able to go ahead and do and give more? Who wants to live and be alive? I don't know about you, but I know that I do. I don't want to be in a state of worry and panic and thinking about how I'm going to survive if I can't be in a position to go ahead and take the things that I have and give it back to the world around me. So Rosh Hashanah, we ask the mega question, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, you're going to reallocate cosmic energy into the world. How am I going to fit into this system of yours, this new reality that you're creating for us? How are you going to do that for us? How am I going to fit into the story? Am I going to be the guy who's sitting on the sidelines watching reality unfold? Or am I going to be the guy in the headlines telling and making the story? You choose what this year looks like. No one else chooses. There's no predestined plan. There's no cosmic thing that says, oh, you have to be this. You could be whatever you want to be. Now, my friends, what are you doing to change? Well, I know you're going to say, Rabbi, it's just so hard to change. I really want to change. I know I want to be good, because I know when Rosh HaShanah comes along and Yom Kippur and I'm banging the chest and I'm thinking, Hashem, oh my God, I made all these mistakes again. And it's not really possible to change. We're stuck in this loop, like nothing ever changes. Okay, that's a flash flood warning. If you are watching this, today's date is September 1st. Hurricane Ida has ripped through southern parts of the United States and now is making its way all the way up to the Northeast. And we're experiencing heavy rain downfall. So, okay. Anyway, so yes, we're 7 days away from Rosh Hashanah. Now, when God created the world, he had a reason for creating the world in the way that he did. It wasn't not for naught, okay? He creates a world and he tells us very clearly in his Torah, in his book, what he wants from humanity. His book, the Torah itself, the 5 books of Moses, is his way of telling us what we're meant to be doing. And there's a very clear verse in Leviticus, in Vayikra, and it says as follows: "Daber el bnei Yisrael le'emor b'chodesh hashvi'i be'echad l'chodesh yeh lechem Shabbaton zikron trua mikre kodesh." Speak to the children of Israel. Tell them in the 7th month, the 1st month, it shall be the Sabbath for you, a remembrance for the shofar blast, a holy occasion. Wow. What does that even mean? God, if you couldn't be more obscure, like this is like the most obscure thing ever. This is like a very important day. Like we're talking about Rosh Hashanah over here. And when the Torah speaks about Rosh Hashanah, right, it's telling me that it's on the 7th month, which is a kind of a weird thing because the 7th month isn't the 1st month. And aren't we celebrating the new year? So like, well, Rabbi, I'm so confused. Like, are we in the 7th month right now? Or are we in the 12th month? So really, this is the first month. And like, so how does that even work? I know it's complicated. Just know there's two systems of time. There's a Torah system of time, and there's the other system of time. Okay, the Torah system of time begins with counting the first month as from the month of Nisan, which means that Elul is the 6th month of the year, Rosh HaShanah being the 7th month of the year. But as far as cosmic time, okay, this is of the first day of the year, so to speak. It's different than reality time. So we have two different types of creation. I'm not going to even go into that. It's confusing. Just know there's two separate systems of time. Okay, but then what are we supposed to do at this time? What does that mean? He says, speak to the children in the 7th month. On the first day of the month, it should be a Shabbat for you. So what do I do? Like I make challah, I make kiddush. Like, what do I do? Why is it? First of all, is there a relationship between the 7th month and the 7th day? All right, so let's find. No, Rabbi, that's not fair. You know what you're doing? You're nitpicking. You're picking only one verse. Find me another verse that goes into the more details. So I'll find you the next one. Next one comes up in Numbers, the Midbar. Here we go again. Okay, on the 7th month, the first month, you shall hold a holy gathering. You shall not work. It shall be a day of sounding of the shofar day. So when you think of shofar day, like, what do you think of that? Like, is that like just like the clarion trumpet blowing? It's like a trumpet day. We just like get out like all kinds of blowing instruments, and that's what we're celebrating. Just like have horns blowing all day. Like, what does that even mean? A day of blowing the shofar. Okay, and so I'm going to say like this: the number 7 has tremendous amount of mystical value for Jews. Okay, this is another important point to mention, that in Judaism, whenever we mention the greatest expression of a number, okay, it's always going to be times 10 first, and then any other multiple of that number. So times 100, times 1,000, doesn't really matter, because the first greatest expression of that multiple is times 10. And therefore, the greatest expression of 7 would be 7D times 10, not 100. Okay, 7D. Okay, so now we know that 7 is important because for some reason God created the world in 7 days, and that's what Shabbat is. Shabbat is the renewal of the week, and therefore at Shabbat I go ahead and I cut away my time from my desire to conquer space. I'm trying to elevate time, and I do this week after week. So I have a mini Rosh HaShanah Shabbaton every single 7 days. Okay. And then on the 7th month of the year, right, which is the first expression of 7, which is the month that we're in right now. This is God's 7 and 7. Okay, comes in again. And now the 7th month is this new cosmic potential where mankind is created. And is a renewal of the year that happens in the number 7. What else does 7 represent? Okay. What's that? Nature. Okay, good. 7 days a week is nature as part of the natural order of things. This is true. 7 is a very common number you'll find in music and art and colors and so on and so forth. You'll find it in lots of different 7 notes. You'll find it in all sorts of different systems, the number 7. Okay. Now, I'm going to say it a little bit differently. On every single Jewish holiday, you use something called yayin, right? Wine. Wine has a numerical value of Yud Yud Nun. 20 and 50 is excellent. 70, you guys rock. 70, okay? 70. So why do we use wine for making our kiddush? And why do we even have like a kiddush ceremony when we begin our holidays? Anyone know? Anyone? Nobody? So what do we say about wine? We say nichnas yain yotze sod. What does that mean? When the wine goes in, the secrets come out. Okay? Sod. Oh, no. So it is 70, right? So, whoa, I didn't know that. Very good. You got me there. Samech, 60. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so there you go. The 70 comes out again. All right, fine. So I have to think about that. That's interesting. So you have sod coming out again. Okay, sod. So what does that mean that sod comes out? So there's something that is buried in each of us. A sod is a treasure. It's a secret. It's a hidden thing that's inside of us. And there's something about wine that allows us to kind of like, if you do this the right way, and I'm not suggesting that you should do this all the time, but if you drink the right amount of wine, okay, and you have the right amount of kavanot, it can be a very powerful experience, a transitionary experience. You want to need, sometimes you let go and you let loose. And therefore, part of the kavanah, the meditation, the introspection of Kiddush, is what am I doing right now to transition out of the state that I'm in. I use a little bit of wine, not that much, like 4 ounces amount, that's not a lot, to help move me a little bit. A little bit of movement. What am I trying to bring into the world? What am I trying to transition into? So in a wedding, we know very simply what happens at a wedding. We make a blessing also, Bari Pregef, and why are we making that blessing there? Because we're transitioning the two couple from two individuals into one individual, from two separate entities into one entity. That's why we make the bracha there. At a Brit Milah, we're taking a kid, we're making the yain also. We're transitioning him from the state of being, uncircumcised into a circumcised part of the tribe. Okay, they were always using wine to move something from one place to another place. And therefore, there's something unique about the number 7 that represents this movement in space. On Shabbat, what are we transitioning from? We're called the codex, right? We're moving out of the work week into the holiness of the Sabbath. On Saturday night, we do it again. What do? We take the wine again. We're making Havdalah. What are we transitioning from or to? From the holiness of the Sabbath into the week. So it's this medium that allows me to move out of a state and move into another state. That's what the number 7 does. The 7 always represents me moving myself from one state into another state. So in the 7th week, 7th day, I understand Shabbat. In the 7th month of the year, that first day of the month is a transitionary time. So what am I supposed to transition into? So I get Shabbat, I get the idea of space and time. But what is Shabbat? So maybe the way to understand is, well, what is this kol shofar? What is this zikron teruah? Doesn't tell me what note, what key. Doesn't tell me what kind of a trumpet to use. Right? We know it's a shofar, but that's only because of the Torah Shabbat Peh, not because of the Torah itself. So Harambam in Hilchot Teshuvah says as follows. He says, although the blowing of the shofar in Rosh HaShanah is a scriptural decree, there is a hint to its performance, which means to say, awake you sleepers from sleep and a slumber from your dozing. Inspect your actions, return in repentance, and remember your Creator. These are the people who forgot the truth. And Rambam says that we learn from this idea of the purpose, the focal point of the blowing of the shofar itself is to wake you up. How are you waking yourselves up? So there's different ways of doing it. So some people say that the sound of the shofar is meant to inspire the sound of a woman whimpering. Right? The cry of a woman, the different types of cries, the cry, and then the long cry, right? Different types of crying, and it goes through all different kinds of tips. One way of thinking of it. Or it could be the primal scream, the roar, wake up kind of thing, right? You decide how you want to connect to the sound of your shofar. But there's no question about it. The Rambam says that the purpose and the function of the shofar, the blowing of the shofar itself, is meant to arouse an inner movement within ourselves. That the sound of the shofar, he says, is kind of like when troops are the soldiers on the battlefield and they're about to wage war. You start blowing the trumpets to inspire the people to get up and move, to find the courage to go out and go to battle. That's what this month is about. It's about fighting the greatest fight ever. The longest fight in history that we're still fighting today. You know what we're really fighting? Who are we always fighting? You're always fighting ourselves because we're the greatest obstacle to everything that we're meant to accomplish. And I know some people are thinking, well, it's hard, Rabbi. I didn't have it so easy. And I'm always feel like I'm always overcoming. I'm always battling. I'm always in this place where I have things that get in my way, and it's too hard for me. Yeah, I don't believe you. I'll tell you why. The challenges, the hardships that we get in life are uniquely yours, uniquely ours. They're uniquely mine and yours. Why? The challenge that we have are the unique challenges that only we can overcome and no one else. And therefore, Rosh HaShanah is no longer a day of thinking about, well, I'm defined by my past. These are my challenges of my past, and therefore I'll forever be stuck. But Rosh Hashanah instead is a very different kind of day. It's interesting to note that on Rosh Hashanah, which starts what we call the Setimet Teshuvah, the 10 days of repentance, you'd think that if it's starting the 10 days of repentance, that there would be some sort of mention on Rosh Hashanah about some kind of vidui, some kind of confession, some kind of slach lanu, right? But there's no mention of it at all. You have this idea of asking God to be written in the book of life. You have this idea of doing teshuvah and tefillah and tzedakah, but there's no real process that starts us in this place of really thinking about doing teshuvah. And the question is, why? If Rosh Hashanah is really supposed to be the time where we're creating this space of us going through time, asking ourselves, reflecting about what was, and doing that inner work, why not have that being part of the actual, process? Good question, right? Well, why not? Why not spend some time, if this is kicking off the whole entire tshuva process, then start the process. Let's just take out our workbooks and start really going through the tshuva. What do we got to do? But you won't find it all. Instead, we do 3 things. What are the 3 things we do on Rosh Hashanah we're constantly talking about? We speak about Malchiot, Zichronot, and Shofar. 3 things were always, that's the whole entire, that's all Rosh Hashanah right there. 3 things: kingship, remembrances, right? And blowing the shofar. These are the 3 things that we constantly go over and over again. The question is why? Why are these the 3 things we're constantly doing? Malchut, kingship, declaring God, coronating God as a king. That's what we're doing, okay? The fact that the book of remembrance is opened, and the fact that the shofar has to be blown. Great, Rabbi. That's a very inspirational thing. Maybe that works, 2,300 years ago when the rabbis in the past were, in the Talmud, where had nothing better to do. But come on, we could do a better program than that. We could come up with a much better program than these 3 things, right? So I'm not so sure. There's a tremendous amount of depth over here. So first of all, it's interesting to note the idea of Malchiot, declaring God as king. Who are we doing that for? Does God need to know that he's king? I think he knows. I think when you're outside of space, time, and you have infinite power and energy, I don't think you really need to. I don't think you have an ego issue. I don't think you need to say, thank you so much. I needed to hear you guys say that. I wasn't sure, but thank you. I am the king. He's good. He knows he's the king. Okay. So who are we saying Malchiot for? Why? Why are we saying it to ourselves? Why are we reminding ourselves? Yes, we're reminding ourselves. The question is why?
To humble ourselves.
Okay. Yes. Humility is one. What else? True, but what else? There's something deeper than that. If God is the king, if he is the creator, he is the infinite one, the all-knowing, omniscient one, he has the power to do what? Anything. Yeah, that too. He has the power to make us disappear and reappear, right? He has the power to do anything. So when I'm thinking about coronating God as king, I'm also remembering the fact that he has infinite power. And there's no limitation before him. And the only limitations that exist are where? In me. My limitations are the problem. But God is infinite. And therefore, it also means that when I'm declaring God as king, I'm also saying, God, you are perfect. And if you're perfect, then everything that you created is perfect, which means on some level, we are perfect. We're perfectly imperfect. Why? So you could perfect yourselves. That's why and how we as Jews we believe you have the power of getting schar, of merit. So Malchiot isn't just declaring God as king. It's remembering that there's an infinite power who put you into a specific time in history with a specific set of parents, in a specific set of circumstances, because those are your unique circumstances. And if you actually choose and have the power of overcoming your unique circumstances, you have the power of achieving greatness. You have the power of bringing what we call the Spirit of God into the world. It's called Kiddush Hashem, Kiddush Hashem. So that's Malchut. So okay, got that. Check. So what's Zichronot about? God never forgets. And therefore, every moment in time is being recorded. It's like weird. Like I have like a Nest camera in my house outside my door, like the doorbells. So it's like always recording. And I have lots of guests that come to my house, and often, sometimes they'll go out like, Rabbi, I need to get some air. And they don't realize that the thing's recording everything that they're saying right outside my door. And so like they're smoking cigarettes, they're checking their cell phones, and I get little notifications after Shabbat that like populate into my email of everything that happened. Right, but everything is being recorded. We understand that everything is being recorded. It's kind of scary. This is being recorded right now, right? And video recording, audio recording, it's recorded. Okay, there's a recording of everything that we do, and it's meant to do one thing and one thing alone. You know what it's meant to do? To scare you. I don't want to say that. Not in shul. To scare you very badly. To make you feel a sense of dread. But that's what I first thought, and I was wrong. That's not what it's about at all. So my first initial approach was, Zichron is all about like God never forgets. Like he's got the book open, he saw everything, he's rewatching every single, your YouTube channel, it's your YouTube channel with your name on it, and God's just like fast forwarding, oh no, I see you were naughty over here, you were naughty over there. That's not what that's about. It goes, what is Zichronot about really? Zichronot is really about tapping into the memory of the great deeds of our ancestors. What are we remembering? Remembering the Akedat Yitzchak, right? The fact that Isaac was ready to go to sacrifice everything, his own life for God. That Isaac represents justice. We remember also about Shmuel, right? The Hannah, who could not have any children, gave birth to Shmuel, Shmuel was the guy who gave us King David and Shaul, right? So it's not about remembering what the things that we've done. It's the fact that we're recalling this idea that God never forgets. And there's a time in space that you and I share a genetic material with an individual who is so charismatic and powerful and so profound, using his free will, that he was willing, able, ready to sacrifice everything for this greater cause. And therefore, we are tapping into that unique power on this day. It's meant to empower you, not to make you feel dread. Zichronot is meant to be like, wow, like I come from people, men and women, who are these most amazing people that walked on planet Earth. That's where you come from. You come from the most remarkable stock of people on planet Earth. It's not about remembering all the bad things you did. We're going to get to that. That's not the time to remember it. Not right here. That's not what Zichronot are about. Zichronot are about the awesome things that our ancestors have accomplished before us and us tapping their merit. So what are we left with? Shofar. Okay, what's Shofar about? Shofar is about, also remembering Yitzchak, that kid Yitzchak. It's about remembering, the Mefarshim bring 10 things down to what the shofar is about. Creation of the world. It's about coming of Mashiach. It's about Melech David. It's about Shaul anointing David and Melech. It's about all sorts of things. The horn from the ram that was slaughtered by the Akedah, Yitzchak. There's so many connections over there, but it's also this idea of remembering things that will happen or that will happen. But I'm going to say it a little bit differently. There are three primary relationships that define our existence on a day-to-day basis. You guys know what they are because you've heard them 1,000 times. Relation between man and self, man and man, man and God. Those three things are found in these three ideas as well. Malchut is between who and whom? Very good. Zichronot, man and himself. And lastly, that's easy, you guys should do cross elimination, man and his fellow man, shofar. Because we have to do it together. It's not in order.
No, but Zichronot is like remembering our ancestors, so that's nice.
It's about my relationship to them. Shofar is something that I need to do collectively with everybody. Okay? This is not my idea. It's the way Chazal bring it down. Now, what's interesting also is that there's three places here that are, there's three aspects of time that are built into these three ideas. Malchut is about the present. God is only existed. For God, there's no past. right? There's no future. There's only everything's happening at once for him. There's only this moment for him, whatever that means exactly, right? But for us, we're always living in these two realities of what was, where we are, and what might come. So Malchiot is always about the present, Zichronot is about the past, and Shofrot is about the future, right? This is part of what happens at Vidui. When I'm asking for forgiveness during the 10 days, I'm thinking about this past, present, and future. I'm thinking about the present right now. I'm making an affirmation, right? That right now I regret what was in the past, and therefore I'll never do it again in the future. This is all tied into it, but we're not even doing anything. And the question is why? So there's several reasons for this, I think. One, you'll learn from Holocaust survivors. You'll notice when the Holocaust survivors, my wife's grandparents were Holocaust survivors. I didn't have my parents. I know family in the Holocaust, and if you're Sephardic, you're probably less likely to have Holocaust, survivors in your family. But I had the tremendous merit of actually, when I was living in Brooklyn, there was an organization whose name escapes me right now, but once a year, I would come and give a talk before some holiday. It was every year it was different, either Hanukkah or Purim or Shavuot, whatever it was, to a room of 200 to 300 Holocaust survivors. It was super intimidating. It's probably the most intimidating place I could ever speak. I've spoken at graduations at like Long Island University for like 7,000 people. That was easy. It was much more, nervous, more nerve-wracking and terrifying, standing in front of a few hundred Holocaust survivors and trying to share anything of meaning. How do you inspire people who inspire you so much and who went against all odds? But when they came to this country, they all tell the same story. They came here to rebuild. If you've paid attention to all the massive Jewish buildings that were built in the last, 70 years, Jewish centers, and you'll notice the dates where these mass mega structures in America were only built after the Holocaust. Because the survivors that came to this country, they wanted to do anything to show that we're still here. They built these massive, structures as a way of preserving their dignity and their memories. You can't erase us. We're always going to be here. They don't make any sense today. We can't even afford to keep some of these buildings open anymore because they're so big. But they built these massive structures because a way of just saying, like, we're thinking about the future. The Holocaust survivors don't speak about the past. They don't tell the stories. I have a recording of my wife when she was 10 years old interviewing her grandmother about the Holocaust. Like, what was it like? She lived in a forest for like 16 months. She was asking her questions like, so where did you shower? She's like, I pulled down a branch and like water came out of the leaves. Like, what do you think happened? Like, it's like, you're living, but she never told those stories before. She never shared anything about the world that she was in. They never spoke about it. And you know why they didn't speak about it? Because if you want to go ahead and build a future, okay, you can't think about the past. It's too painful. If you want to reimagine your future, you have to start by thinking about what's going to be tomorrow. You can't live in what was. You can only think about what will be. And all too often, we live in a generation, we're still thinking about COVID. We're still thinking about what was. And we're too afraid to let go and move forward without it. But here are people who lost families. They never saw their parents again. Kids, 7 years old, 10 years old, 8 years old, 10, 15 years old. My wife's great uncle was married before the Holocaust, 4 kids. His wife and 4 kids murdered. And somehow he found the courage to start over, marry again, and have another 5 children. I don't know if I could do that. Where's that strength come from? And we're worrying about, like, when's my Amazon order coming? So what's changed? What's changed is that we're so stuck in what was that we can't let go of the past. We can't move forward into our future until we're able to let go of the past. And not just the history of who you are, but the vision of what you think you are. It's not enough just to be what you think you are. You have to become something more. That's what this day is about. Rosh HaShanah is meant to challenge us to ask us, what do we want this year to look like? Are you going to let go of your past? The reason why we don't mention any kind of vidui on Rosh HaShanah is because we're not meant to be distracted by the past. Dream about the future. Malchiot, zichronot, shofrot, they're there for you to tap into, find that strength, find the courage within you, and let go of what was and start dreaming about what tomorrow could look like. You're the obstacle. So how do I get you to let go? What do I got to do to help you to let go? So we do all kinds of, we blow the shofar for 30 days, before Rosh HaShanah. Then we have 10 days of teshuvah leading up to Yom Kippur. We have a fast day. Like, we're trying to do whatever we can in the system itself to wake you up. But today is the 25th of Elul. This is the day that the universe was created. And you have the power of tapping into this unique energy, this cosmic force of newness. What are you going to do with that gift? If you walk out of here tonight and you haven't let go, or you haven't dreamt about a better version of tomorrow, then I failed you and I'm sorry. I'll take some responsibility. I could be better. But you have to take some responsibility with me. Because I could only show you the door. I could try to push you as hard as I can. If I did that, you'd resent me, but maybe you thank me later, but you resent me. So we stay like this. So I'm going to give you a couple of things that I think are going to help you along this path for the next 7 days. Hopefully, maybe before Yom Kippur begins even. Where do the obstacles come from? So there's lots of studies that were done over the last several years about, just human laziness, behavioral change, and so on and so forth. And what can we do to change our reality? So some fascinating things that I recently discovered. One was that the nature of a human being is that we always want to be busy doing something. They took a bunch of people, they put them in a room. There's nothing in the room. The only thing they had in the room was a table, a chair, and a strap on their arm with a box that when you push the button of the box, you got zapped. You got like a small electric shock. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to see how often people would zap themselves out of just sheer boredom. So 60% of people, it was painful. It was a shock. 60% of people would rather feel something than feel nothing. Think about that for a minute. I'd rather zap myself, statistically speaking, than sit in the room and do absolutely nothing because I'm gonna go crazy. We're wired, we're hardwired to want to be doing things. No one here wants to be doing nothing. Everyone here wants to be doing something. Just recognize that as the base layer of your programming. No one here is lazy. Your software in the background that's running that you wouldn't think about is programmed to get you to do all kinds of things. Okay? So, well, where does the obstacle come from, Rabbi? I'll tell you where the obstacle comes from. The obstacle comes from a couple of places. But one is that we think in negative versus positive. Most people think that the purpose, that life is all about, getting pleasure, right? But it's really about avoiding discomfort. What really moves us is I want to avoid discomfort. So, I just want to thank, so I have 300 people in the room right now. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. And no, they're not. There's like 25 people in the room tonight. But the other 275 people couldn't show up because of the rain. It was like crazy rain out today, and it was very uncomfortable to go out tonight. So they would much rather, stay at home. There's actually a 65% drop in your attendance when you're running an event when it rains out. Just so you should know that for the future. Anyway, so you have a smaller showing, which is fine. Okay. Now, I'd rather, even though I know I want to come to this class tonight, but it's too hard for me to get out because I don't want to get wet, flash flooding. Oh, it's too difficult. I don't want to go. I'm not going to go because I'd rather avoid discomfort and I want to be comfortable. That's our natural state. The problem with being comfortable is that when you constantly stay in a comfortable state, you know what's happening? Nothing's happening, right? When you're in a comfortable state, that means there's no tension, there's no pressure. But we're not designed to be in a state of doing nothing, right? We're meant to be in a state of movement and growth and development. So how do I do it? So a couple of things. One is, that we have something called free will, and we can exhaust our free will. So they did this fascinating study that just has to do with your eyes, okay? That because we are, from a biological perspective, we're like predators, and animals that are predators have a very big tells about their eyes. Okay, so there's two settings we have in our eyes, when we focus in and when we zoom out. You know that when we're constantly focused in a narrow space and when we're reading, we're looking at a very small, we're in a cubicle, we're in a box, whatever we're doing, that in that small area, we automatically become more stressed and more tense. Just by constantly looking at a screen, even just focusing your eyes in a small area, will on a subconscious level, will increase your levels of cortisol, your stress. Isn't that interesting? However, if you are walking out into an area, like you're going on a walk and you have this massive view, that expansive view automatically de-stresses you. Isn't that fascinating? So if you live in a place called Manhattan, where everything is really narrow and everything is very, very small, and you're constantly stuck in a small box, just know that you're going to be triggered much more quickly than someone who's living in the suburbs. Because people in the suburbs have that bigger space. It's important for you to go out and allow your eyes to stretch out a little bit. So just the nature of the world we're living in today is that we're stressed out more. We're stressed out. That's just the reality we're in. So what are you doing to de-stress yourself? But that's not going to help everything. That's just an interesting fact. Let me tell you one very practical tool. Number one is there's two different types of teshuvah. This is called yira and ahava. Okay, and everyone says that ahava is greater than yira. And then there's some people who say, no, yira is really greater than ahava, and it goes back to machloket. Of course, everything's machloket. I'm going to go with the most simple pshat is that ahava is always better because we're more motivated to love than we are to react to fear, and this is proven. Okay, statistically speaking, if when we put warning labels on things, the warning labels have a less impact on stopping people from doing whatever the warning is. As a matter of fact, there's a company called there's a cigarette company called Death Cigarettes. Okay, I'm not sure if you've ever seen these cigarettes, if you know smokers. It was a black box of cigarettes, and it had a skull and crossbones on it, like poison. And when they made these cigarettes had like 3 times the level of nicotine and tar in them. Like it wasn't like may cause cancer, it will cause cancer, you will die. Like it was brilliant marketing. These cigarettes outsold some of the other, many of the other like very well-known brands. Right? Well, why is that happening? Right? There's something about the don't do this, right? That has a weird psychological pushback on me. Like I don't want to be told what I can and cannot do. Okay, but when you tell people what you can do, they're more likely to do it than when you tell them not to do it. Now, people have 2 different modes that they're set up in. Either this is bad for you, or it's positive, or versus positive and negative. Okay, where do you think more people change is motivated through? Is it through positive things or negative things? Right? If I told you that you want to go on a diet, right? And instead of thinking about all the benefits of diet, think about all the things that are going to kill you if you don't go on a diet, versus thinking about all the benefits you have of being on a diet. Which one has a greater chance of motivating you to stay on the diet? What's that? No, so positive actually. The positive stuff always has a bigger, profound impact on us. And more than that, what they found like this: if I went ahead and I put you in a room where I inspired you, I had an inspirational coach just coaching you and telling you, you could be the best, you're so amazing, you just pump you up, versus another group of people who take out a sheet of paper and make a declaration of, oh, I'm going to go on I'm going to work out, I'm going to go on a diet this week, blah, blah, blah. Okay, which 2 groups has a higher chance of keeping to their diets and workout schedules? The people that were given the motivational speakers that pumped them up, or the people that just took out a sheet of paper and wrote on a sheet of paper? So the wrote on the sheet of paper. Do you know why?
Because you taught us that last year.
I told you that. Okay, so someone's paying attention. Someone's paying attention. Okay, fine. That's right. So writing on a sheet of paper is more compelling than having a motivational speaker. Okay, one last study and we're going to try to wrap it up. Ready? We did this in the NBA. They took a basketball team and they divided the team into 2 parts. Half the group of people were told to practice an extra hour. So usually in your NBA, you practice 6 hours a day. These guys were told to practice 7 hours a day. There's another group of people that were told that they were going to only practice for 4 hours a day. And instead, the other 2 hours, they're going to play mind games of them imagining throwing the basketball into the hoop. And they wanted to see which group would perform better within 6 months. So which group do you think did better within 6 months? The ones that used their minds and saw themselves hitting the baskets in their imagination did better than the ones that practiced the extra hour. Right? Well, why is that? The first step of growth is that it has to come from a positive place. Number two is you have to imagine it. You can't think that, you know what, last year was so painful, it was so much heartache, and so I want to be better. That's not gonna motivate you to grow. That's not gonna motivate you to change. You really want to reimagine tomorrow. The first step of reimagining tomorrow is that you have to think about all the awesomeness that you could accomplish if you actualize your full potential. You got to dream. You got to envision yourselves being successful. Envision yourself getting the things that you want. Envision it. Make it real, tangible, see it, feel it. I vividly remember when I was deciding to put this on and do all this stuff, right? That if I wanted to marry this most remarkable woman, that I had to become the most remarkable man. And that the only way that a woman like that would ever marry a guy like me is that if I became a guy that a girl like that would want to marry. I knew I needed to become something bigger. I dreamt. I became something more. I had a vision of where I wanted to go. I had a dream of where I wanted to be. I didn't allow the past to define me. I didn't allow what was to determine my reality. I didn't think about all the mistakes I made. I didn't think about all the things that went wrong. I let go of those things. The most successful people in the world are the ones that make mistakes over and over and over again, but never give up until they get it right. Because they dream about being more. They dream, and they never stop dreaming. The Holocaust survivors understood this. Rosh HaShanah is about this. It's about tapping into this cosmic energy and recognizing that you have infinite power and potential. Now the question is, what are you going to do about it? One last tip. So you have this, you wake up in the morning and now you have this dilemma. Do you touch the phone or not? You know what I'm talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Because it's dead right there by your eyes. First of all, the first mistake is that you shouldn't have the phone in your room. New policy. This year, Rosh HaShanah, if you want to change your year, okay, leave your phone in the room next door. You want to go on a diet? Okay, ready? Let me teach you a secret. Bring all your cookies and cakes to your neighbor's house. That's the secret. Don't leave it in your house. Don't create temptation. If you want to go ahead and find success in your own growth, you have to think of it like launching a rocket. There's two super important things in building a rocket. Number one is you want to create a rocket without any friction. No friction. So the first thing you want to do is you want to remove all friction from your lives. Remove as many challenges as you can. Declutter, get rid of all of the challenges you have in your life. Take away all the friction. The second thing you want to do is you want to add a lot of fuel, because you have to get to something called escape velocity. In order for you to get the rocket out of the Earth's orbit, you need a lot of power. So no friction and power. So no friction, that's you creating a vision of a space that has the least amount of distractions in your lives. Clarifying where you want to go, what you're going to do to get there. The fuel is the inspiration necessary to push you beyond the circumstances that you're in. The next 7 days leading up from Rosh HaShanah until Yom Kippur is that inspiration. I know it's been a hard year, and I know you're distracted. I know you have a lot of work. So do I. I got 6 kids. I have an amazing wife. I have all of you. I have communities. I have people. I'm busy. I get it. But if I could make some time, a little bit of time, if I could claw away 15 minutes a day for the next week, because I want to have a better, greater year. I know so can you. Again, I could show you the door, but ultimately you're going to have to walk through it. If you want to reimagine tomorrow, what steps are you going to take to get there? So what I did for you was I made a little workbook that you all have. You don't have to look at it, it's self-explanatory. Okay, you can walk through it on your own. Okay, this is my gift to you before Rosh HaShanah. Okay, use it. But before you look at that and open it, I want you to spend a few minutes to close your eyes, and I want you to think about what it means to be the best version of you. What potential within you have you yet to bring forward into this world? What aspects of your essence, your being, have you yet to express? Where Are you, where is the friction in your lives? What are you doing to remove that friction? Another very important key, another way of avoiding the friction, ready, is a 10-minute rule. Let's say you're on a diet and you want to eat that cake, okay? So there's something called the what the hell effect. You just whatever, I'm just going to go all in, and you just thought that's the end of the whole diet for the whole entire day, right? But don't do that. The new thought process like this. You're going to spend 10 minutes before you do anything. I'm telling you, I'm not saying you shouldn't have what you want, but before you actually take what you want, spend 10 minutes. Put a timer on and say, I'm not doing it for another 10 minutes, and think it through. Once you could feel a positive association with you not eating that food or not doing the negative behavior, you're going to switch your whole entire life. The difference between winners and losers is that winners focus their time to express their potential in the most meaningful way. Losers are using their time. They waste their time. Rosh HaShanah isn't just about thinking about all the things that went. Okay, I can't change what was. But you know, you have the ability of doing, you have the power in Rosh HaShanah to take every single second of last year and turn it into something powerfully meaningful. You have the power of taking everything in your past and transforming it into something that is super positive. There's two ways of doing it. You could erase the past, or you can elevate the past. You choose. There's always going to be a path set in front of you. You choose. It's always going to be there. You do what you have to do to achieve that reality. When we do this, you know what we're really doing in essence at our core? We're asking God to reallocate that cosmic energy to us. We're asking God to give us a year of happiness, of health, of success, of love. We want to find our soulmates. We want to find a special partner. We want to be in a community where we could give back to people. I don't want to be just a taker. I don't want to be considered dead. I want to be alive. I want to be living. I don't want to live in the same pattern as the previous year. I'm willing to go outside of my comfort zones to try to express the most amount of potential I have in this world, because in this way, I create something called the Kiddush Hashem. You want to bring Mashiach? I want to bring Mashiach. I want to change the world. And I know that most people think that, well, you know, Rabbi, it's never really going to happen. It's going to be too hard for everyone to do it. You're crazy. You're living that's the wrong way of doing it. God didn't give the Torah to the whole entire planet. Who did he give it to? A small group of slaves. Broken people. If a bunch of slaves with slave mentalities have the power of receiving the Torah, then a bunch of schnooks like us have the power of bringing Mashiach into the world. Just forget about what the world is doing. Start asking yourself, what are you doing? Don't look outward, look inward. Look inward. Rosh HaShanah is about thinking about the future, looking inward. My relationship, Malchio, Zichron, Shofar. Use the system to accomplish greatness. And I promise you, you'll be written in the book of life, in the book of health, the book of success. But God's just waiting there. You decide what book you want to be written in. It's up to you. He's not writing it. He's just taking the energy, and your actions over the next 10 days will determine where that pen goes. You choose. Your choice. The choice is yours, my friends. Wishing you a Shana Tova Metuka. Should be a year filled with happiness, health, and success. A year of Osher v'Kovod. A year of Briut. A year where all the sickness that we've experienced over the last 18 months dissipates and is gone. We live in a world of true Ikvas Mashiach, a world of interconnection, a world of love, understanding, and patience, a world where we fully recognize that every single human being is created in the image of God, and therefore we have to care for them in the most beautiful way that we possibly can, that we each have a unique role to play in the cosmic story that God is telling, and we're going to play our parts to perfection. Have a great night. Thank you so much for coming, everybody.